Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Move for a Movement. This is actually the first episode I'm recording in 2022, which is exciting, back after a little break. And I'm so pleased to have with me today Linda Cow, who is at the helm of Dancers Unlimited. And we'll talk all about the mission, etc. But it's an amazing organization spreading dance far and wide in an accessible way and a culturally competent way, which is key. So yeah, thank you so much, Linda. How you doing?
I'm doing well. So my last name is Cool.
Cool. Thank you for the correction. I appreciate that. Should have asked for it.
Yeah, everybody pronounces it wrong, so it's okay. Even even my husband does that sometimes too. So, yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad we can make it work. Busy lives. Rescheduled many times. It might have been the most.
Yeah, I've been trying since last year. Sometimes I don't know, October.
Yeah, it's important thing is we're here. We made it. So yeah, to start off, I would love to hear more about your journey in dance and the arts. And I personally know we've talked about that first from some things I've written, but for the audience, I'd love to hear about, what brought you to dance, what kept you there, what sort of resonates with you in the form that was like, oh, I have to do this always. Yeah, I'd love to hear about your dance journey.
Yeah, I think I started so my family moved to Hawaii when I was 3 years old. And my mom sent me to a hula class, like a hula school. She had 3 kids. So she was like, somebody needs to go somewhere. So that was how I got exposed to hula. That was my first form of dance. And then from there, it was, I'm so sorry about the dings, my messages on my laptop.
2022, it's all of us.
I know, it's like I'm getting all these messages nonstop. Okay, sorry, I'm back. Yeah, so, and then from there, I was introduced to ballet. So I had a very common, like the exploration with dance, so like ballet, jazz, the studio route, right? And then hip hop. And then I remember watching Madonna's Vogue video. That was like the first time I want to be a backup dancer when I was, when I grow up. And of course, my mom, being the immigrant Chinese mom, was like, no, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna starve. Like, and then she was partially right. It's hard, like, being financially stable as a dancer. Yeah, and then I started taking dance. I've always taken dance very seriously. I was in dance teams and dance competitions and all of that. It was always been my thing that I've tried different things growing up, and dance was always the one love that I kind of just stuck with. So in college, that's when I started choreographing professionally, because I don't know how I ended up choreographing for the NBA, the Celtics, and the halftime show. And I was like, oh, we can get paid doing this. I was like, this is great. Then moved to New York to actually work in advertising, and quit my job when I got into the professional training program at the old Broadway Dancer on 57th Street. So from there, I just have been dancing since.
I love that. Thank you. I think it's so funny. We hear these stories often, I feel like, of, I just had so much energy as a 3-year-old, and my mom thought a dance would be a good way to get it out. And then, like, from there grows this lifelong love. It's so funny. Stories like that.
Yeah, I think my mom was the same way. I think my preschool teacher was like, I think she has ADHD. My mom was like, no, she's 3. She needs to run.
Yeah, totally.
So she basically, I think she was just trying to tire me out, like, because I have so much energy. I still do, so yeah.
Or like, male dancers be like, my sister danced, so I could either sit at the studio or I could take class.
You can take a class. Yeah, exactly.
Those chants that leads to a lifelong love. I think it's great.
Yeah. That's what my brothers did. So, but yeah. They can still get down. They can jump in and freestyle and stuff. Yeah.
So Dancers Unlimited, just quickly, mission is to create authentic movement narratives for community advancement. Love that. Short and sweet, poignant, Love it. I would love to hear more about how that mission evolved and how the organization came to be.
Yeah, thank you. So we started in 2009 when I myself moved back home to Hawaii from New York. This is after I
Mhm,
had danced professionally in New York for a few years, moved
mhm.
home for family reasons, and that's when the Hawaii Department of Education basically just cut budget, right, from public school. So Fridays were
Yeah.
canceled, but parents still
Oh,
have to
yeah.
work. So where do kids go?
Right.
Yeah,
Oof.
so it's like, well, like, you can like, so parents were left stranded, and it was a very like abrupt decision too. I remember when I moved home.
Mm,
So DU Dancers Unlimited we really started as a call for like the community call for something.
mhm.
Um, so we ended up working with dance studios because, as you know, most dance studios, their hours, their space is empty. Their spaces are
Right.
empty during school hours. So we're like, why don't we
Yeah.
partner up and offer something for the community? And the studios, the community really came together. So that's kind of how DU
Mm,
started, as a community effort of just getting together and let's have
mhm.
somewhere for the kids to go.
Yeah,
And then,
totally.
yeah, and I was really lucky that at the time I had just, finished touring, and I had a lot of friends who are like Beyonce's choreographer, like they choreograph for Chris Brown, so all these big names. And
Mhm.
when people hear Hawaii, they want to go. And if you're going to Hawaii for a great cause, like working with kids,
Yeah,
and then Linda will drive you around to the beach. Yeah. So that's kind of how we started, and we got onto the news because all these celebrity choreographers were flying themselves down to donate their time
Mhm.
to work with the kids all
Mm,
day. So and this is not just kids, it's like kids of all ages, and we
mm.
got to work with different locations, different studios, really all like just jump into support. So community's always been a huge part of who we are, even
Mhm.
as we started growing and touring and coming to New York.
Mm.
It's still, I think the community part is always the core of DU.
Yeah. And from what I can sense, that's just sort of in the air, in the soil in Hawaii, this community sense. Like I know there's been a lot of labor organizing action recently just because the cost of living in Hawaii is nuts. I think it is the highest in the nation.
Yeah.
Um, and people coming together to be like, yeah, we need more to live and supporting each other through that organizing.
Yeah.
Just yeah,
Yeah.
thinking that of like recent news.
Yeah.
And I just, inherent in so many indigenous communities, I feel like, from the Native Hawaiian and how that kind of has pervaded everyone from all backgrounds
Yeah.
in the state and in the islands. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think I grew up kind of, I was very lucky to grow up during the era we call the Hawaiian Renaissance.
Mhm,
So, how
mhm,
Harlem, there's the Jazz Renaissance, and then in
mhm,
Hawaii,
mhm.
the 70s, 80s, and early 90s, it was the Hawaiian Renaissance. So that's really when because when the US took over, they banned the Hawaiian language, and Hula was banned. Like people got arrested, put in jail for speaking
Jeez.
their own language, doing their own dance, because that's how
Yeah.
the dance is, right? Like
Mm,
it's the documentation of their entire lineage and culture
yeah.
through the dance steps, the chants. So when I was growing up, I was introduced to the history, that the actual history
Mhm,
that was
mhm.
not erased, um,
Yeah.
from through my kumu hula, my hula teachers, and they introduced to the Renaissance part of what dance means to a culture,
Mm,
to a community. And then it's a community effort because there's no funding for Hawaiian Renaissance. The government is not like, here's like billions of dollars for you to revitalize your language and culture.
yeah.
So it's a community. It's always been a community thing. And
Mhm.
also I think living on an island, right? Like you kind of have to live, you have to rely on your community, because where you can't go
Yeah.
anywhere. You're there on the island 2 hours,
Right.
2 hours to drive around. So
Yeah.
community's always been very, very important, and that's definitely part of my upbringing, and I
Mm.
guess it's shaped DU a lot as well.
Yeah. It's right there in the mission statement.
Yep.
Yeah, I feel like it's kind of miraculous in that sense, the history of literally banning Hawaiian culture, hula, and the language. The fact that it did survive, even not having those reresources,
Yeah.
when those laws were changed, thankfully, they shouldn't have never been there, but it is it's in a way miraculous, but not in that like attesting to the resilience and the creative spirit of the Hawaiian people, of just creativity and these things that burn in us and how much that means to us. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah. And I think it's just also it's a very universal thing, right? You look at every culture, there's dance, there are always dances, songs.
Yeah.
It's just like it's a human thing that we have to express ourselves, and it's also it's an expression of culture. When you go to museums, you have paintings, but what's not hanging on the wall are the songs and dances that people practice.
Yeah.
That's kind of and I feel like every culture there's that, and I was just really lucky to be able to be introduced to the Hawaiian side and really learn from through this era where everyone was just trying to figure out like, where is the language, what's the correct way, because then I realized every island there's different pronunciation for different things. And then every the dance lineage can be so different, depends on which hula school you came from, right? But then they're dancing to the same chants, and then there's new chants being created too. So it's really cool. And then of course when the commercialization of Waikiki happened, so it's funny because Elvis Presley actually brought hula back. So when they started trying to sell like Hawaii as this exotic like travel destination, right, with Elvis, like Tiny Bubbles and all that stuff, that's when the first hula show, the luau as people know it now, was actually created in California. The commercialized version of hula was to like basically bring Californians. They want to show Californians that, oh my God, come to Hawaii, this exotic island. So the hula show with the grass skirt and the coconut bra, like, because Native Hawaiians didn't dress like that, right? But that was the creation of that commercialization of Waikiki. But that also, from what my kumu has taught me, the various kumus I have learned from, it also played a big part of the modern hula as we know, right? So it becomes ceremonial, less ritual, it's softer, because you have to kind of appeal to a different palette now. So so hula kind of evolved too. And then now I think there are hula schools in like all around the world, Japan being one of the biggest one. They have like I think 200 hula schools from last
so interesting. I'm like, this is like we're in school right now. This is like a class. I love it. This might lead well into the next question. From what I understand, you offer this sort of education in Hawaiian arts and culture. There you have programming where people can learn. Is that, I think I was seeing in an email blast.
Yes, CU is not a Hawaiian, like we're not a Hawaiian dance group. I know I'm not Hawaiian. And we have advisors because we're so rooted in where we come from, and it's shaped the identity of the company. We have advisors who are Native Hawaiians, who are also cultural practitioners, that kind of guide us. Even in our contemporary work, like we fuse a lot of street dances with modern and different dance forms, even capoeira, martial arts. Hold on a second. I have to move. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of a recording.
We can edit out. So we'll do what you need.
No, we're good. She's gonna ask my husband.
Okay.
Where was I? So we do have hula that's taught by our hula. So for hula, it's you kind of have to get a blessing from your teacher in order. It's a very training. Some people, it takes their whole life to become a hula teacher. You kind of have to know everything about like the history, what each, like even when you make a costume, it's not just a costume that you just piece together. There's protocols, there are spiritual meanings behind it. You have to pray, you have to make offering. There's all these different things. So we make sure that we have our kumu that's kind of educating us on that. We do have a travel program that we recently started. We actually just had our first public version of this. We've been trying to figure it out how to do it. We want to introduce people to Hawaii in a more, we call it pono. Pono is like the righteous, the correct way. So nothing wrong. I feel like correct is like a weird word. Nothing wrong with going to Waikiki and just enjoying yourself, right? But it's
Right.
also like, well, what is, you're not getting the real Hawaii, right? Because part
Uh,
of the Waikiki sand is imported from California.
mhm.
So go to California if you want to go to Waikiki. But but it's, we're really trying to introduce people to, this is the community, this is the island, this is the trauma that it's gone through, and this is the resilience
Mm,
part, and the really cool part that you can be a part of, right? Which is like the community, the art, the dance, the restoration work that's happening on the land.
mm,
Yeah, so we just started our first, we just had our first trip in February with the general public, which was
mhm, mhm,
amazing. It was amazing.
mm.
They're not
So
dancers.
great.
Most of them are not dancers, but they
Mhm,
had the hula. Every day we did a hula. We learned about
mm,
the piece of hula that was on location. So that hula, but that particular hula was about this particular place called Hakipu'u on Oahu,
mm,
which is like traditionally that's where the canoe festivals
mhm,
happen. So
mhm,
the voyagers from all over Polynesia, they will come to,
yep,
for hundreds of years, they will come to this particular space called Haki.
mm,
Yeah, so it's cool. So it's really special to learn about a dance that was created specifically for this place and dance on that
mm.
place. Kind of
Ah,
feel that connection that way, and see non-dancers, kind of, especially COVID, right? We all kind of had
mhm,
to go through different things. Sometimes some of us were so disconnected with our bodies, even for dancers. So
yes.
kind of like
Yeah.
reconnect with ourselves through just being so grounded on the land, through dancing hula. Most of them, it was their first time doing the hula. Um,
Mm,
and just kind of being introduced to the island in such a special way. It was very cool.
yeah. There's so many layers. It's so deep. So many intricacies of the land and the spirituality, and it's beautiful. I love it.
It's cool. So yeah, we're having another one in August. I'll send you the information, and if you want to check it
Yeah.
out.
Stay tuned, everybody. Yes. So what other programs or programming, other offerings does the organization facilitate, put forward, present to accomplish the mission? What other things are part of the work that you do?
Yeah, so something that we really pivoted during COVID, we started trying to exploring that before
Mhm,
COVID, but during COVID, it actually was the silver lining of going virtual.
mhm, mhm,
Because we're a bi-coastal
yep.
company.
Mhm,
Um, Working together as a bi-coastal company with a 6-hour time difference was always really hard.
oh
And
yes.
and then before things were like virtual, right? It was like, oh
Mhm,
my God, we need all like $10,000 to bring the company from one coast to the other. And we don't have that budget. So
mhm,
working virtually has been really great to really reconnect with the root of the company in a way, because
mhm,
The Hawaii company has always been very much about the community engagement portion.
mhm,
Part of it being because there's not a lot of professional performance opportunities. So basically,
mhm,
when we
mhm,
perform, it
mhm.
was whatever we create, that's
Right.
professional, right? There's not a lot of festivals unless we created them ourselves. Um, but which is fun because then you get all the community involved. And in New York is different because there's so many professional companies, there's so many residency and grants opportunities. So we're really able to dive into the creative exploration part and perform on different stages, exchange with different companies. So it's a little different, but then I was really missing the community part, because we're
Mhm,
constantly meeting new people, performing on different stages. And I think in New York, being such a big city, being
mhm.
grounded in community is just so much harder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so during COVID, we're really able to utilize Zoom to connect with our communities back in Hawaii and also in New York, and realizing
Mhm.
we have community all over the world because people
We
were
do.
coming in from like Africa, from Asia, from South America, from Vegas, everywhere, like to our workshops, to our
Mhm.
events and virtual performances. So it was like, wow, I didn't even know. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, people, we had audiences from around the world, so which is really cool. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so so now we are able, and because during COVID there are no quote unquote like stage performances, we started
Mhm.
just creating with the community. So one of the new
Mhm.
project that came out of this exploration was Edible Tales, which is our new conversation, I guess, around food.
Mhm.
So everything about food, it's about cultural heritage. We talked
Uh-huh.
about sustainability, whether
Mhm.
it's sustainability of the land or ourselves, like healing, for
Mhm.
example, or
Yeah.
social justice, right? Because a lot of people don't have access to fresh food. What happened in Hawaii was because 90% of the food has been imported, in Hawaii,
Mhm.
which was such a shame because before colonization, Hawaii was totally self-sustainable. They were able
Yeah.
to feed
Yeah.
millions of people off of the land, and take care
Mhm.
of the land, right? The relationship is different. It's about taking care of the land for the future generations.
Yeah.
So we started really talking about, so when COVID happened, there was no fresh food in Hawaii because the shipping stopped.
Mhm.
So people started going back to the
Mm.
land, whatever piece of land they could
Wow.
find, even in the garage. One of my dancers growing food in the tiny little piece of land strip inside her parking garage. So she's been growing
Wow.
like taro, and then from the food compost she got, I think she's growing like this avocado sprouts that's coming up. So in the garage.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, and then the community really came together because it became like kind of like a traditional, quote unquote ancient way, right? Like I have fish, you have rice, we're gonna exchange. Like,
Mhm.
so a
Mhm.
lot more people, so sustainability and social justice also became a part of the conversation.
Mhm.
So now using all of this conversation, using all of the different gifts our community have been giving us,
Mhm.
we are creating like a dance installation, and that is being funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities, Brooklyn
Wow.
Art Council, yeah, and even Lower Manhattan Culture Council. So like people are
Uh-huh.
really responding to what we're talking. I think food just gets people so excited.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, who
Oh
doesn't
yeah.
like food, right? So and it's interesting because I'm getting things like people are like, oh, I'm really surprised a dance company is talking about food because people don't associate dancers with eating. I was like, so that's a whole other thing to address, right?
We eat a lot, but anyways.
Yeah, but I do know dancers who are like they're just not gonna eat because they have to look a certain way, So that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, so it's really great to sorry, I kind of went on a tangent, but
No,
it's
that's all
it's
great. I love it.
yeah, it's been great to just kind of really create a performance piece with the community and
Mhm.
allow the community to guide our artistic direction.
Mhm.
um which is, for me, that's the authentic part of our mission statement, right? Like we want
Mhm.
authenticity, and authenticity doesn't just come from me as the
Mhm.
artistic director. It should come from the people around us that who are creating for. So it's really
Mhm.
cool, like to be able to pivot, especially during COVID. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, I'm curious more specifically, what does that engagement look like? Are there workshops that the community participates in, and then perhaps that brings creative fodder for the work? Are they performing in the work along with company dancers? Yeah, what does that look like?
Yeah, so we have movement sessions. We used to call it open rehearsals, and we realized open rehearsal sounds very scary for non-dancers, especially. So we changed it to movement session. So the Hawaii portion that's found. So we have movement sessions in Hawaii, but everything's also available virtually. Um,
Mhm.
and it's recorded too. So if you don't want to stay up, until midnight,
Mhm.
then you can request for a recording. So it's funded by the Hawaii. That's the part that's funded by the Hawaii. Sorry, what is it? National Endowment for the
No, yeah.
Humanities, through the Sharp grant. And it's once a month, and every month we have a speaker who's actually, they're just in the field of food, if the like food people, farmers, land restoration people who have spent like the last 15 years trying to rebuild ancient like fish ponds,
Mhm.
right? They can grow their own food again. People who turned a 20-acre illegal dump yard into a 20-acre community farm. So,
Mhm.
so, so all of those people are kind of like in the conversation, and in the movement session, we get to hear from them, and then kind of embody all of the discussion into through like movement exploration. And from there, our dancers take what they learn and what they're exploring and go back to rehearsal and develop into the performance pieces that I think we're debuting in November. Yeah, and in
That's
New York, we're
beautiful.
doing the same thing. Yeah, we're starting in May in Brooklyn. So that's funded by the Brooklyn Arts Council. Um, Brooklyn conversation is a little different. We don't have access to just 20 acres of farm, right? So we're working with Brooklyn Grange, which is an urban rooftop farm. They have multiple cities through multiple locations throughout the city. And so what does it look like to access fresh food, to grow your own food, or even like a lot of the New York conversations, I think, have been about cultural heritage. I think because
Mm,
there's so many cultures in New York, and even my dancers in New York, they're from, I don't know, I have like people from 6 different cities. We speak, so as a company, we speak 20 languages altogether,
wow.
which is amazing. So,
Wow.
so I'm like, how do we? So right now we're trying to figure out how do we utilize all the 20 languages in this show, and talk about food and cultural heritage and all that. So that's kind of what the New York focus has been, really about cultural heritage and urban access to
Mhm.
food, right? Because like
Yeah.
you were just saying, like in New York, when you go there, it just feels like you're throwing away money all the time, so shopping for groceries is expensive.
Yeah. Or food deserts is a huge
Yeah, the
problem. Like
food desert. Yeah,
literally,
the food desert
the
is.
closest thing you're gonna get to fruit is like a banana at a bodega, you know,
Yep.
which
Yep.
is
Yeah. If
great.
the banana is fresh, right? So like
Yeah,
we're talking about that. So one of our sessions, we talk about food apartheid, which
Mhm.
is the systemic design of separating people from fresh food, meaning
Mm,
when health problems comes up, right? And then food is
yep.
also a place where community happens,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
Food, when you have food, when you can eat together, that's when you sit down and break breads and just kind
Mhm.
of talk, right? And that doesn't
Yeah.
happen in New York a lot because everyone is on the go, unless you have the money to spend money in restaurants, right? So it's like
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah,
Totally.
so all of that conversation is happening, and it's cool because
Mhm.
it's guided by the people who are coming to our movement sessions. So
Mhm.
yeah, so come, we're doing a lot of stuff this summer. Yeah, it's all open to the public.
I love it. We will put all information in our posts, and people can follow and keep learning more and stay tuned.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So you noted the challenge of being bi-coastal in the time difference. I can imagine. Oof. And about transportation and costs when you're, a small nonprofit. I'm curious about other challenges that being bi-coastal might have brought, but also advantages. What sort of gifts that might bring. Because
Yeah.
that's also not a standard thing for an organization. They're usually based somewhere.
Yeah, I yeah, I think with DU, it just we I think so. I think people, especially in my Kumu and people around DU, have always described DU as this canoe, right? Like we just kind of sail.
I love it.
Yeah, we're like, yeah, we're the Hawaiian word for canoe is va'a. So my
Mhm.
Kumu's like, you're the va'a, and then you kind of are like, I'm the person who's like, okay, we're gonna go. And a canoe, like so in the past, the canoe just went wherever I went. So when I went to New York, the canoe kind of landed, here. And then pick up a different group of people and then travel together. So we're kind of just all traveling on this journey of artistic
Mhm.
explorations, right?
Yeah.
And we had to figure out on the canoe how to work together. And having two canoes in both Hawaii and New York, it was really hard until I
Mhm.
want to say until COVID. I mean, COVID sucked a lot. It was just terrible. But for our company, the silver lining is we discovered that we can work together on Zoom.
Mhm.
So thank you, Zoom. Um, yeah, so but the time difference definitely is a thing. So for example, like I said, the Hawaii exploration right now is happening at 6 p.m. Hawaii time, which is midnight New York time. So
Mhm.
when I do join them, I have to stay up until midnight. Thankfully I'm a night owl, so it doesn't bother me, but for other people it's harder. But then also because there's a recording, so we can just send
Yep.
recording to people if they
Yep.
really want to,
Yep.
watch it
Mhm.
later. So that's also the benefits. And then I think another benefit is just to have that different point of view, so
Uh-huh.
even just
Yeah.
edible tales, right? Like food is such a universal topic, but every place there are similarities, but there are also very specific community issues and concerns and interests that they want to explore.
Absolutely.
Yeah, which makes our work so much richer. And it's like when you go, and we're learning a lot too. And even for our dancers, they're learning a lot about, oh my God, like food apartheid, like you said, food desert that's happening in the urban areas. And then there's not really food apartheid in Hawaii, but it's the whole island being shut down, cut off from food because of COVID, right? Because of shipping. And then people realizing how much we have relied on imports.
Yeah.
There's all this land, and there's like, it's nice weather all year round. You can literally grow food all year round.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see people start doing that, and then to have our community members jump on board and willing to share what they have been practicing. So those are the advantages, I think, just hearing different stories and really enriching how and what we create. Challenge is always financial. It's always financial, and I think it's with every nonprofit, every art organization, right? But I think we have been just so lucky that every time we go back, like for example, this trip in February, we wanted to bring company member over because we've been talking about food together virtually for 2 years. We gotta just get together. So we're like, okay, we didn't have enough money because fundraising was really hard last year. Most of our friends are in the arts, nobody has the money. It just means everyone's being financially impacted, even now still as things reopen. So we're like, okay, we only raised, I think, 2/3 of what we needed. So we're like, how do we do this? We need sponsorship. We need people to just donate. So 2 weeks before we're supposed to fly, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna keep manifesting, but you know what? If we can't go this time, it's okay. But and then Hawaiian Airline came through with a sponsorship to fly 4 of our dancers there, just very last minute. And then someone donated their whole house for us.
Wow.
It's like, oh my God, that's $6,000. So it's really amazing to just see like community, and even in New York too, same thing, like just community coming together to like, so whatever we're lacking funding is always like the support is there. It's really cool. I think those are the
manifesting.
Yeah, manifesting is like, yeah.
I love it.
I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Yeah, so I think community support is also the advantage because we are bi-coastal, we have a larger community, and also we just have a bigger network of people, of really passionate people, about what they do.
Amazing. Yeah. So I'd love to hear about one or more things that you are most proud of in terms of what the organization has accomplished, and then one or more things that you are working on or working towards.
Yeah, I think what I'm most proud of is like we have 2 canoes happening, and we're kind of sailing on the same course, but like in parallel, but different, exploring different things and going on different journey. And we always kind of like come back together. So having the 2 canoes like kind of working together without colliding and crashing, it's and having the people on the canoe work together too, right? It's I'm really proud of that. It's really cool. And it takes a lot of hard work. Like our Hawaii coordinator wakes up at 5 a.m. her time to jump on our weekly call, which is tough. And she's always like, oh my God, before she had coffee. And sometimes it requires us, like on the East Coast, staying up until midnight for a event, to join a event virtually in Hawaii. So it is that sacrifice, but good things happen out of that working together. Again, going back to the canoe, my kumu was always like, someone on the canoe has to stay up the whole night because you're gonna get lost. So someone's not gonna be sleeping. I was like, oh, great. So that's what I'm most proud of. And we also got funding from Dance NYC this year, so we could pay. I have a co-artistic director now, which is amazing. So I'm really proud of that, to be able to like offer space in the company for people to kind of take a leadership role, which is amazing to see people's growth and again, like the enrichment of what we're creating is amazing.
Beautiful. I love it. Yeah. So that's sort of all I have. Is there anything else you want to share before we say goodbye and thank you? Until next time,
Um,
everyone will stay tuned. What's
yeah,
going on
yeah,
with
thank
Kids
you.
a little
Thank you
bit?
for having me. Yeah, thank you. It's always
Of
great talking
course.
to you. And
Of
yeah, come
course.
join us for the food conversations, even if you're not a dancer, if you love food, which I think most people do.
Pretty
Share
universal.
with us. Oh, yeah, one thing we're really trying to get a community to like be a part of this summer is to share your recipe, your family recipe, your favorite recipe, and at our we're debuting the New York show in January as a
Mhm.
part of APAP.
Right.
So we're gonna have a cookbook, and we want to include people's cookbook. So our agent, who's Jody Kaplan, she's like, I don't know how to cook. I know how to make a hard boiled egg. I was like, yeah, give that special hard boiled egg recipe because that's from your mom. Apparently, it's like the best hard boiled egg ever. So I'm very excited to hear more about that. So we're collecting a community cookbook that's also going to be part of our work.
Mhm. I love it. So is that sort of open to the public? Anyone can submit a recipe?
Yep, everyone can submit. We're gonna I'll give you the link once it's launched, probably next
Nice.
month. And we have a bunch of just public events happening in the summer. Yeah, so just come through, come and talk to us, come and eat with us. And yeah, and then in January we're going to have our dance installation, which is, so it's not a dance show, it's a dance installation. People can go there kind of like when you go through a museum.
Yep.
So a docent will guide you. It's a time ticket, so if you're in the 10 o'clock group and you have half an hour to walk around our dance installations. The installation also includes food. So we're working with different chefs, local chefs, to cook for you, and then to also make your own food. And then there's dancing happening as well. So it's gonna
Love
be
it.
fun. It's a huge walking. I don't know how to describe it. I think dance installation is the word. If you can think of a
Yep.
better word, let me know.
Yep.
Yeah, and then there's food involved too. So food, dance, music, everything, good times.
Love it. It's a great way to get people to come to dance as food.
Yes. Yeah, because I know a lot of people think of dance as like, it's with my husband, right? Like, I'm like, you're married to a dancer, and he doesn't like going to dance shows because you have to sit there for 2 hours. He's like, oh God.
This is what I don't understand though. People will sit at a football game or a baseball game for like 4 hours.
Exactly.
I don't
But then
understand, but that's
but
just
then
me.
it's exciting, right? Because you can make all kind of noise. But when you go to like say Lincoln Center, you can't be the only one like, yeah. And then football game, you can walk around to get a hot dog.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be like, you know what, that's great. Like I think people should enjoy like,
Mhm. What
performance
they
in
enjoy, yeah.
different
Yeah.
venues, like different versions of performance. But for us, I was like, if we're talking and dancing about food, there has to be food.
Love it.
Yeah.
People won't be too hungry.
Yeah, I know. Like, what better way to get people to start talking to each other than
Yeah,
like,
for
let's have
sure.
food together,
You
So
gotta try the da da da. It's amazing.
yeah, so I'm
Where'd
excited
you
to
get
see.
that?
Yeah, we're gonna have all different food, all different kind of food from different cultures and
Yeah.
fusion. I don't know, and people can also try try making their own like spring rolls,
Nice.
different kinds of food. My friend was talking about halo halo, which is like a Filipino dessert,
Mm.
made of the like ube, the sweet potato, yeah, the
Mhm.
purple sweet potatoes. So yeah, so it'll be fun. It's yeah, then people get to dance and or watch dancing and eat food at the same time.
Amazing. Well, again, we'll have everyone follow so they can stay tuned and participate and get involved.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much again. Again, I feel like we went to school and I want to learn more about Hawaiian culture now because there's just so much depth and beauty. I'm
Yeah,
blown away.
please. Our Kumu is coming in May. I think I
Oh,
sent you right. That's the link I sent you. Yeah. So if
yep.
you're interested, let me know. I can
Yeah.
put you a spot. I know you're in Rhode Island.
Yeah. And nice people for sure, though.
Yeah.
Well, everyone will stay tuned, but definitely, yeah, there's all this wonderful stuff will be available that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you so much for having me. It's so great to talk to
Thank
you.
you for coming, for taking us to school. And for all your amazing work, really beautiful stuff your organization is doing. So everyone should follow and support how you can.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.